Hello, hello. We are starting today a new podcast called From the Ashes. My name is Ramon Crespi, and I'm sitting with my friend Joy Gisberry. Hi, Joy. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm fine. Very excited of this first ever episode. How you feel?
Yeah, it's good. I know we've been talking about this for a long time, and at some stage it just needs to happen, right? And it's a nice opportunity. We've got all the equipment. Let's get started.
Exactly. It took a while, and we've been talking maybe over a year from this. Quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, super nice. So, if you think so, we're gonna tell our people like what we're gonna do mainly. And today, as is the first episode, first of all, thank you for being here. Ones who are listening already, for us, it's very important that you get to know us, so you will get a little bit of a clue of who you are dealing with, and what kind of crazy stuff we're gonna tell you and yeah, Joey, if you want, why you don't give the first idea of what's the podcast what's the podcast about, and then I'll complete some spaces.
yeah. So what I see here is that in this time, I mean, in this time, we have so many people asking questions about what's going on in the world. They see all the changes around them, the jobs markets, the economy, financial markets, but also socially in life, we see a lot of changes. And the more time we spend on social media, the more questions we start asking. And I also see that we are in different generations, of course. You're a millennial, and we just figured this out, by the way. But you're a millennial, and I'm a Generation Xer. Um, so we see so many people asking questions, and we want some of those questions to be answered, and that's what we're trying to find answers to those. That's for me what drives it, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, for me is more or less same. In one side, in the other side, I think podcasting has become one of my major activities. I don't listen to news anymore. Basically, well, sometimes when I wake up, I put the Bloomberg TV because I love to see the opening markets
Mm,
and so on. This is kind of a tradition. But what I like is to get insights from people who is look alike like us, who is in the business world, in the entrepreneurship world, in the stock market world, in the macroeconomics, and also people who's not afraid to change, people who's willing to change things in their lives to become better, or to just have a better life on what
yeah.
they consider that is a better life. In essence, this is a little bit you and me, isn't it?
Yeah, I think change that's an interesting word because I think so much of what we do is actually trying to figure out. You're always caught between these two things, like comfort zone where everything is safe and secure and fine, and then change is where the great things happen, right? I mean, it's like when you start to change things in your life, then suddenly the most amazing things can happen, but it involves taking certain risks in life. And I always remember that saying, a comfort zone is a great thing, but nothing ever grows there.
That's actually a good one. You haven't told me this one before. Why?
I
uh,
always remember it's what drives me, actually. Yeah.
I actually I don't have a wonderful sentence for that, but I do have a feeling to explain to you if you want. Um, many times during my last 20 years, I feel that when I was starting to get comfortable and good at something, boom, then I made a change. And then uh, now through the years, when you back and look back and you connect the dots, you're thinking that there was a meaning for that. Uh,
Yeah.
the changes happen to people who, of course, is looking to improve their lives, but those changes happens for a reason, and they happen on one time and on a specific time for a reason also. And um, I think that would be probably the reason why for the last 4 years I live in Finland, and for the last year more or less you live in Lisbon. How has been your time in there? How has been the change?
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? I mean, we had, if talking about change, we of course everyone went through 2 years of a pandemic, 2020 and 2021, and just that is what drove a lot of people to change things and to start questioning things, because it's when you start questioning your certainty and your securities, that's when you start thinking about changes. And moving to Portugal was one of those changes. And a lot of people that we meet here have made the same changes, because they went from a very depressed environment to looking for something better. And that doesn't always apply to a financial. It does not always a financial driver to that. Very often, it's just sometimes it's like things like social environment, sunlight, beaches, good food, and it's just basically going back to the basics, which is basically enjoying life. And you're Spanish, yeah, so you know all about that, right?
Absolutely. I would say I'm 100% agree what you say, and I would add on top of that that of course when the ones that we live in the northern side of Europe, or more or less starting from northern Germany, Netherlands, blah blah blah, until the Scandinavian area. One of the things we lack is, first of all, vitamin D3, that
Hmm.
it does affect in even your mood. It can create your lower back pain. There is infinite things about the vitamin D3. um, but also the sun the sun energy doesn't cover all the vitamin D3, so you can supplement it. In Spain, for example, living in Spain, you are not that sensible to those changes. But I remember when I moved here, I was the first 2 years, I was like, nah, I'm not going to feel any mood change because of the weather or anything like that. And it comes, and it really comes, and it's due to the light, and it's due to the social life and everything. In
Yeah.
Spain, you know that we go to the terrace and we sit there for hours in a bar, and we can have a beer on Monday, and it doesn't mean anything else. That's just having a beer. Nobody expect that you are going to celebrate anything. These are the things that are most different, I would say, from compared to how life is different versus Spain and Finland in this way. But yeah, the changes come along with a lot of inner changes of a person, and also personal growth. I'm sure you are learning a lot of stuff in Lisbon, and I know myself, I'm learning a lot of things in Finland, which in the end make us, I would say, better.
Hmm. I agree.
What do you think if we introduce ourselves a little bit in the more professional perspective?
Yeah, because it's important for people to know who we are. And okay, shall I start off?
Yeah, before you start, Joe is just get out from the prison. It's been 20 years criminal, and
Yeah, yeah,
no, no, kidding.
that's a change as well. Yeah, yeah. No, okay. So who am I? I'm a native Dutchman, as some people might hear from my accent. You try to get rid of it, as I definitely do, but it's impossible to stop hearing to get rid of it. Basically, and people always hear that you're Dutch. But so born and raised in the Netherlands, in a small village out just outside of Amsterdam. I was a walking distance from Amsterdam, and spent pretty much my entire childhood in the same house, same school, same teacher who went with from year 1 to year 6 with the class, same classmates, same football club, same this, same that, you name it. Everything was the same. And coming from that environment, going to an expat life, because after my study at business school in Amsterdam, I joined a company in the Netherlands, then got posted in Dubai for 7 years, in the chemicals industry. So we supplied the shipping industry and also the oil and gas industry and infrastructure projects in Middle East. And coming from that stable environment, going to expat life is a complete change, of course. And that kind of makes it makes you think about life in a different way. So you talk to different people, you see life completely differently from when you stay in your comfort zone. So 7 years in Dubai, learned a lot about the Middle East and about how the local people in Middle East look at life, with coming with a very prejudiced mindset in a way. As a European, we always have opinions about everything, and we move abroad and we find out that actually we were wrong. We were completely wrong. And having experienced that for 7 years, really blessed to having been in that position. Then a pandemic came, lost my contract, moved back to the Netherlands for 2 years during the pandemic, 2020, 2021. Liked it to some extent, and didn't like it to another extent. So we moved to Portugal then, and now we're here. And I am a private investor. I wrote a book called The Demise of the West. Um, so as a private investor, I follow financial markets. That's what I do. I have a wife here from Indonesia, and I have two children who are 14 and 11, girl and a boy, and we have a dog called Lenny, and that's pretty much me in a nutshell. Yeah, Ramon, how about you then?
Amazing. Actually, because we know each other for a couple of years now, but that we're going to talk about how we met each other later. But um, this is incredible because I had exactly the same childhood than you. I will start following Joey's example. Yeah, I born in the island of Mallorca, 36 years ago, almost exactly. My birthday was last week, so 36 on the pot on the point. And Mallorca is an amazing place. It's an island in the middle of the Mediterranean. If you come from a big country or from a deep European country, it does look like like a paradise place where things are going slow. But actually, Mallorca is different. Mallorca has been the I would say the epicenter of tourism over the last 50 years for half of the world. And we have been growing surrounded by many cultures. I've been growing surrounded basically mostly by Germans and British citizens. And then I got surrounded by Dutchies and Scandinavians and Italians, French, Americans, Australians, everybody you can imagine.
Yeah,
So in a way that makes you grow a little bit different. You don't grow 100% rooted to your place, because if you live in one island but there is no tourism, you're gonna be that local person from that island that behaves always the same. But if you live from a place that there is all the time people coming and living and you are meeting new people, that affects your development, that affects
mm,
the way you interact with other people. So I grew up in that island, but in the same class with the same teacher who stayed with us also 7 years or eight in the row.
yeah,
Same people, same village, everything the same as you said, like same story. And I recently discovered that by that time I had a problem of concentration. And I was kind of, sometimes my teacher used to say, Ramon, can you please shut up and shut up for at least 5 minutes in the row, that don't
mm,
speak. and and recently I discovered that I might have some kind of a little bit dyslexia or ADHD, like this concentration thing. And analyzing it from the back, it makes all sense, right? uh, I've been all my life trying to find something that I really like, something that I really enjoy. I think life is a gift, and it's a gift to enjoy, and it's not a gift to be suffering or working in something you don't like.
yeah,
And for that reason, the last 20 years I've been mostly in the sales space. I've been selling from luxury properties to cars, boats. Even sometimes a couple of times I made a plane with a deal with a plane, so that was pretty
Hmm.
huge thing. Um, and in the end, what I like the most is to recognize the behavior on the people, especially how people behave towards business in general. And along the way and along this long journey, which I done even more things I'm not going to mention today because it's going to be too long. But along this, I met you in a business school that we both share in the Power MBA, and here we are making a podcast. And I want you to know that even though I've been always interested in investing. I was more like a real estate person. But then around 2020, I met Joey, and I started to dig into the stock market. I started to dig into the crypto space also, understanding it as another asset class, not as a gamble. And Joey was really really clear on that, and he teach me a lot on what I know today. I'm not by far at all an expert like him on
Neither am
charting.
I, by the way.
No, yeah, you are. I'm not a good chartist, and I'm not I can't forecast that much. But what I know is that watching today a price of a share and reading a little bit what's been happening in the macro space, I understand a million times more than 3 years ago. And this is because of you. So thank you, my friend.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that actually, and thanks for that. I think one of the things that we realize when we start studying financial markets a little bit in more detail, we notice that it's actually connected to real life, and that's what actually attracts me. It's not the making money part, where of course you try to make money with it. I know that everyone tries to do that, but it's not so much the making money part. It's how it's connected to the problems that you see in the street, basically. Um, if you look at, for example, inflation that we've had, where does it come from? What causes it? Everyone, if you don't follow financial markets, you just think, oh, prices are going up, and then you read some things in the newspaper, and it's these oil companies are making incredible money, and they're the bad guys. That's why our energy costs are higher. It's people are kept stupid in a way until they start reading into it. And you've been one of those people who actually took that step and actually started studying it a little bit more. And I think everyone should do this, and it's something we have to also teach our children. If you shape your view of the world based on what you read in the media and what people around you are saying, you might be completely wrong, and you might have a completely wrong mindset actually about things.
Absolutely. What is uh, scary now, what is scary now for me is to see like the retrospective of this over the last 30 years, 40 years, like how many millions of people is growing, it's developing themselves and becoming adults with one idea about how the world works, or believing just one just the simple facts that you read on press, and without going international and reading what that news affects to this country, or how this affect to this industry, or why this is happening, or why gold is going up, why gold is going down, what this means for the dollar, what this means for the mining companies, what this
Yeah,
means finally for our pockets, and this make me understand this whole thing, that how ultra connected is everything. It kind of unlocked it in my brain, something that the rest of the world cannot work like we are told. It's
mm,
impossible. If this is connected like this, there has to be something else.
yeah,
So this is also my journey, trying to get a better learner in this way. um, I'm actually reading. I will tell you now the three books I'm reading, just for you to imagine what is in my head. First one, I'm reading yours because you gave it to me, and I promised to give you a good
Hmm.
review. So I'm getting through. Then I'm reading Ray Dalio, the New World Order, which
Yeah.
even you and him are even correlated in some
No, but
aspects.
he's an amazing guy. Absolutely.
It's crazy good. And then I'm reading a 20-year-old book that I found in my mom's house this month, and it's from a Spanish psychiatric. And I read the title. I was telling something about why we are like this, or why we act like that, something like this. I don't remember now. And it's telling about the last 20 years, the last 30 years, the civilization is being under a threat, and it's telling the example of the 11s in the United States.
Hmm.
And basically, from the last 20 years, we live, there is something in our brain that we live constantly thinking that, hey, there might happen something here today, or there's been a bomb in there, there's been a bomb in that. And from time to time we forget it, but when it happens we go all under crisis, and everybody gets very, very nervous. And the book analyzes our behavior towards fear and uncertainty, and the global macroeconomic aspects. And I totally choose it randomly, I promise you.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that there would be any mention to how these things are connected. But
Yeah.
in the end, it's just another surprise of, like, the things that I'm interested, they are manifesting, and I'm finding the ways to put it together, and reading reading that.
Yeah. That's amazing, actually, and I think it comes pretty close to one of the things that I wrote in my book in the first chapter, and I mentioned the example of Schrodinger's cat, and the question that I'm asking myself is, with social media all over the place, you have access to everything, and you previously you could read the newspaper in the morning, and the rest of the day you would be somewhere else, and you would not be confronted with the news because you didn't have a phone. There were no mobile phones and so on. So you were basically isolated from the outside world. You were basically only occupied with what you saw around you. You were basically going to school, you were going to work, whatever, and your whole world was actually what was happening around you, the tangible world, basically. Nowadays, if you have a phone with you, you at any moment of the day you have access to all the misery that's going on the other side of the planet. So you can actually keep yourself occupied by Vladimir Putin, by China being a threat to the world, which many people believe, of course, in the West, to people getting killed in different wars and so on. And the question we should ask ourselves is it selfish to isolate you from that and to say, I'm sorry, that's not my business. I don't want this to influence my life. Or should we say, no, we should care about this because the problem is when there's so many things going on in the world, if you start caring about everything and start really being angry about everything, your happiness will basically drop down to zero. And that's a choice, a decision that we'll have to make.
I couldn't be more agree. Incredible. This is something that we need to learn to navigate through this new world order. And I think reading your book and understanding the changes in the world, and why things might happen, because we never know exactly why they happen, or because we will never be told of that.
Mhm.
It is an important exercise to take every person. But without further ado, I would also like to do something else today, if you don't mind, my friend.
Please go ahead.
So, what if we had the idea to make this podcast, and we want to cover certain things. I love to tell to our future audience what things we are going to do. I will mention some of them, and you can tell me if you agree or not. you please follow me and continue with the rest of things. As you already saw today, our main idea, or the things that keeps us busy, is uh, in general life, economics, finance, uh, behavior, psychology, and also uh, we like to do it in a way that we dig a little bit more profound into the why things happened, and what and maybe from my side there's going to be more about sales and about communication, which I'm also a professional on that. And on the Joy's side, there will be more about macro and finance. Um, if you, Joy, want, if you can frame it somehow that people can remember what's the core thing of your expositions.
Um, well, this is one of those things that you're trying to find out in life in a way, isn't it? But yeah, for me, it's always my driver is always in the end it's happiness, right? So you want to share with everyone also what drives you and how do you achieve that. Now then, financial market is something that really interests me because it influences all that. It influences why people have to work a certain jobs they don't like to be able to buy a house, for example. So that is what drives me. It's That's what I try to describe all the time, is how do we get into the lives that we are in. And it's all because we're trying to chase some kind of happiness. And that socio-economical aspect of is what interests me most, actually. In addition to that, you were talking about sales. I've got 20 years of sales, or 10 years of sales experience, and 10 years of marketing experience. And that's also something that really interests me, and that's seeing how companies become successful, and why do they become successful, and why do others fail. And sometimes the ones that fail interest me as much as the ones that succeed.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, in a way, sales are our passion somehow, because we end up always selling something. And from my the way I see it, from my perspective, is that there is countries where you are fighting for selling, no matter what you are selling in a red ocean or in a blue ocean.
Mm,
People is like used to it, to bring the word out there, and go and try to eat each other in a good sense, but like, you know, just
yeah,
being a very good seller, a very good performer, standing out in front of everyone else. You know the story of the guy who is working while others are sleeping, right? Or the
yeah,
person who's doing that. And then there is countries where the Scandinavian space, which is less like selling and is more informing. It happens also in Japan and some other countries, most like North Hemisphere. But the culture of informing it's a very curious, because you basically not sell at all. You are just telling what the product or the service does, but then you don't speak anymore. You don't put that much examples. And this is one thing that I'm very passionate about, and I'm making a living of this, helping companies to change that, or Nordic companies in essence nowadays. Because in the up here, for example, in the Nordics, the companies create amazing products and amazing services. There is a lot of talent over here, and the problem comes when companies needs to go out, when companies just go and sell the same idea to the UK, to the Netherlands, to Spain, to Italy, to Portugal, to the States, to Mexico, everywhere. There is always something missing, some, this little bit secret sauce of selling and trying to attract people. And this is what I'm passionate about. I'm actually not passionate, or it doesn't give me that crazy satisfaction to actually sell. It gives me the satisfaction to cover the problem of selling and the problem of the communication while selling, the way you the way you use your clothes to define yourself as a figure of authority, the way you use your words, the way do when do you use your words, and which is your favorite word toolkit that you
Yeah.
use in order to to win that or to lead that conversation. And this is something that I really really like. I think it's like what defines me the most. And besides this, I didn't tell you one thing when we were introducing ourselves. I don't want to be now the interesting guy, but I just simply forgot it.
Good. I'm all ears.
But we've been talking about this, you know it, and is this ability I have to or yeah, an ability, or I find it easy for me to recognize changes in the behavior of the people. And it happens for me because when I was a kid I had a lot of overweight, and basically it was more complicated for me to to win friends or win influence. So basically I've been working that of influence and gaining
Yeah.
notice by talking since I was 6 years old. It's insane if you think about it. I've been doing that for 30 years. So no wonder I have I am a little bit trained on that space. So and this I was telling this because nowadays for me is so interesting to speak about the topic of behavior in sales and in investing. Also I can see, if I see a CEO of a company giving a talk about how the Q4 is being going or something like this, I can certainly find sometimes some words or some friction moments that
Mm.
makes me believe that is it actually, I think it's lying, or something like this. So then I could call you and I could say, should we short this company? Or
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, there are some horrible speakers out there, and even in senior positions, the politicians sometimes you can see. I know they all get the same training. That's why they all use the same hand gestures, and they do the same. They stress the same syllables, for example. But you can see so many people when they speak about something, they're not really passionate about it. And when you do that, you lose the audience very quickly. And that's something that I've always learned, and that I still try to optimize, is that when you talk about something, at least sound like you're passionate about it. That makes such a big difference.
absolutely. I gave a talk to the University of Helsinki like 6 months ago, and I was telling somebody asked me like, what is the best and first advice you give somebody who needs to talk about something in front of a lot of people? And I said, like, only talk about what you really know. If you really don't know what you are talking about, you better don't talk, because you will end up in a in that kind of spiral that drags you in, and then you get nervous. People start to put confused faces, and then you will block and you will be ridiculous. So better don't do that. That was my answer.
That's how my career started. As a young guy, you join a big company, you end up in the global marketing department, and then you have to present to all the sales teams from all over the world about something that you've literally just been introduced to. It gives you sleepless nights, and the questions you get, you'll not be able to answer them. It's you learn the hard way, but it's indeed it's not a very comfortable position to be in.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Wonderful. I think also I want to say that we don't have yet a podcast studio, so we are just here with the white walls on our properties. But maybe as long as the From the Ashes podcast grows, we're gonna have like something more, I don't know,
Yeah,
appropriate, or
I know
some decoration.
you've got a little daughter, so you can ask her to paint something on the wall, maybe.
Yeah, well, I think she will, she would make a lot of stuff here. And also my son, yeah, I forgot to mention about that. I have a three and a half year old kid and 10 months baby who is testing her voice skills, and you will listen it one day, all of you, I'm so
Yeah,
sure.
bring her into the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I think we'll try to bring it back every podcast is um, what kind of news items you've come across that actually caught your attention. So looking at the past week or maybe even today, is there something for you that stands out that you would like to discuss, Ramon?
Um, yeah, I won't rely on a specific new, but I will rely on a sensation if you don't mind. So as you do, the whole last week I was you go through your day and then you read about company reports or debt ceiling or the job data that was released on last Friday in the US and so on. And I got a strange feeling last week that it looks that things are too steady and too calm. And in finance, there is this sentence that what comes after no volatility is high volatility, right? I think you,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think you told me that,
Yeah.
and and I know we have a different opinion on this, but it I just felt that I just checked that uh, in most of the stock market and crypto, we have exactly the same price levels than in January 2022. So we have gone up and down a little bit, but we haven't advanced as a society a lot
Mhm.
because and it's a long time already. Think about this: 1 year and 6 months, 1.5 year of basically no new money, no new investment, and little bit back and forth from the major names, and this
Yeah.
is this is keeping me a little bit nervous now. I don't see either. I was reading just a week ago about somebody was saying that the Bitcoin is gonna finally go to the moon. The Chinese now are accepting it globally, and so on. And still, the Bitcoin price haven't actually moved that much. And I don't know. I have this feeling of I don't want to be too bare, but I had the feeling of that this is kind of the one step down towards a bigger step down.
Yeah, that could be very well possible. In the end, what in the system we live in, the economic system, what drives everything is liquidity. So the more money gets pushed into the market and gets printed, basically, the more share prices will go up, housing prices will go up, and so on. The moment the Fed and central banks around the world start cutting liquidity, you'll see that you basically go back to the real economy. So if you would say today the amount of money that there is in the market, we're just going to keep that and we're not going to reduce it, we're not going to increase it. So no new money printing, we keep this amount of money. The question is then, would prices of assets still be able to go up? That what drives that would then be demographics. So you go into discussions like do we have a good birth figure? Are there new people coming joining the workforce? Is productivity increasing, for example? Now, when you don't have good demographics like, for example, in south of Europe, like in Japan, and you don't have an increase in productivity, basically the economy cannot get better. Those are two things that if you miss those, the only way you can make asset prices grow is by pumping more liquidity into the market. And that is exactly what is happening, of course, and what's been happening for a very long time already in the Western world, especially. We are basing ourselves on basically constantly printing more money, and that makes everything go up. And that's kind of a concern because you want to achieve organic growth in an economy rather than this kind of artificial growth. And that's something that has brought a lot of people into crypto, because now every teenager has become an economist because of crypto. Every teenager who's never really worried about money and about all that, suddenly understands a lot more, and maybe not everything that they understand is correct, but they kind of understand, wait a minute, money that we have always grown up with is actually not as stable as we always thought it was.
Stable and sure, or safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Actually, I think I started to understand more the financial system with crypto than with fiat money. Because in 2019, I had this inner, you know, inner need of understanding what the hell crypto is. I need to know now. and
Yeah.
uh, by that time the information available, it wasn't like today, but and it's only 4 years, but in 4 years, you know, the world has accelerated in a way that most of people didn't have time to change yet. And there we go with the problem is not the speed. The problem is not the change. The problem is at the speed that the change happens, and then people don't like get there. And um, I have a question for you following this crypto conversation. What do you think is the future of a currency? Like, I know this is a very long topic, but most the question is like, do you think the dollar decline in less than 10 years, dollar disappearing? I don't know what's what's on your mind.
Yeah, it's a question that everyone in finance and economics asks, would like to have an answer to. I think we will eventually go back to tangible stuff. That is what matters most. Is, I mean, you see tech companies, and Nvidia is a good example, of course, where the amount of times of earnings, the multiple of earnings that you pay for that stock at the moment is completely ridiculous. And there's so many artificially inflated asset prices. And I think the best thing is to basically hold assets and own them. And you have done some real estate, of course. You're still involved in that industry. That is basically hard assets. And central banks will eventually have to go back to that as well, because if they don't, then eventually what will happen is currencies will crash, they will disappear. I'm not saying that that will happen to the dollar. I think central banks will always try to avoid that. Central bank digital currencies will be a thing, of course, in the future, if we don't prevent it from happening. And that's a tool that could potentially really become a control mechanism for governments over people, because once your only way to spend is a digital currency that is controlled by a government, they can literally measure everything you do. They can put a carbon price tag on everything, and they know everything about it. They can even say you're not allowed to fuel your car, for example. So because that can be programmed into the system. So there's a couple of concerns there, of course. I think what we see with BRICS now, which is the power in the world is shifting more towards BRICS and away from the US, is that they are more and more buying gold. And why? Because gold is the only thing that's been stable for a couple of thousands of years. Gold and silver, to some extent, have always been ways to trade, to pay for labor, for example. A worker's labor was one silver coin back in the days, if you go back 2,000 years. And those values are still, they still hold that value. So I think eventually, if BRICS come with a shared currency, which is still under discussion, it would be backed by something tangible. And the only question I have with gold systems is always, who's going to audit that the gold is actually there? And who's going to be the authority that we all trust? Because that's the main issue in the end.
Absolutely agree. But there is one thing that blew my mind. You were telling about the CBDC's control by the governments. They can tell you that, hey, Joey, you have been putting too much fuel to your car this month. Now you can't do it anymore. Or you've been eating too much meat, or you've been going too much to a bar or whatever. I had exactly the same conversation a week ago with a friend. I'm not going to tell to which country, from which country is, but my friend's wife is a tax inspector in one country,
Mm-hmm.
and she is like super top, basically, like top. If you want to know something deep, she knows. And I told him about, we were having dinner with another friends, and I told them like about the CBDCs and what this means, and blah blah. And my friends say like, hey, my wife already knows that, because you are using a credit card, and the credit card is giving a crazy amount of information that you don't even know yet, and most
Mhm.
of the people don't know. And I was thinking in a way that CBDCs are gonna be like, are they gonna be that bad? Because we are already using the cash is the cash is the problem, because the cash is really disappearing. You see less and less and less and less cash, and only very southern countries use cash every day, and people is hanging out with cash. But even though in that kind of places, uh, for example, in my last vacation in Mallorca, I haven't seen that much cash anymore. I have seen people with cards, and these kind of a two things that soon they are going crossing together, like the decline of the cash, and the continue ascents of the credit card use, and the CBDC is somewhere like this has to cross somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, and it's a natural thing, and that's why cryptocurrency has been was born in this era, because with the technology we have today, it makes perfect sense to make everything digital. I think no one denies that, and I think it is time to move away from cash in a way. Cash, okay, it doesn't mean you have to ban it, but naturally, I say the move away from cash will happen, because it simply makes sense to have something on your phone, for example, and to scan something and everything is paid. That's the ease of doing that is more important. It's normally what drives changes. The only thing is that one thing that I've always said is not about whether governments have bad intentions or good intentions, because that's always a point of discussion, right? And I mean, you have a group that says our government has good intentions, and you have a group that our government has bad intentions, and some are the tinfoil hats and the conspiracy theorists, and then you've got the other side of things. So I'm not going to go into that discussion. The discussion I would take it to is never put a framework in place or a system in place that could be abused by governments for very bad things. Because it's not so much what today's intentions are, but we don't know what their intentions are going to be tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
And that's the thing that we should always be very careful with, because not our generation, it's also our children and their children.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there we need to take into account that there might be political shifts. One government might
Yeah.
behave amazingly good and with a goodwill to some extent of these technologies, and other will be just the opposite. So yeah, that's
Yeah, we've seen how that can go in America as well. When you go from Obama to Trump and then to Biden, you get completely different views on things, and a lot of I'm not saying that the president drives everything, but yeah, things can change quite rapidly.
absolutely. Wow. Well, I think we've been doing a good job. We are over our me and Joy. We decided that this podcast is going to be around 45 minutes, 40 minutes. Today we are in the 50 because it's the first one, and we need to train a little bit more that. But we have been enjoying a lot. We also been thinking that we are going to tell you today what's going to be the next episode about it. So in the next episode, it's going to be Joey. If you want to go on, do you have it ready?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that I first of all from the discussions that I've had on Twitter with a lot of people as well. There's a couple of things. First of all, I want to put a lot of focus on the markets, on the financial markets, and on what we see. That means asset classes, that means stocks, that means crypto, whatever. And where is it going to go? What happened? What is the latest news? For example, today we had or yesterday we had the OPEC oil cut. So those are the type of things that I think we should discuss. Secondly, the socioeconomic side. A lot of people are wondering for example, where to live, and a lot of people are not so sure whether their country is the right country, because you see a lot of countries increasing fiscal pressure on the populations. So taxes are going up everywhere because countries are struggling, as are the people, and that drives people to migration. So we've seen people coming from Africa and from Asia towards Western Europe at the same time, and we see people from South America, from Latin America going to the US. At the same time, we see people from the US and from Western Europe going the opposite direction. And why is that? What drives that? And where should you be living at the moment? I think that's an interesting topic.
Definitely, it's going to be a great one. So thank you very much to everybody to help us reborn from the ashes. The name from the ashes, by the way, basically in the nature, everything recycles. If a tree dies and you let it die on the ground, it will become like a dust. The dust will be absorbed by the earth as a nutrition, and then it will grow something else, either a new tree or mushrooms or whatever. So the ashes are a symbol of something new coming up, always something that reborns, and something that can brings a new future. So this is what we are going to try to do here. Thank you very much, Joey.
Thank you, Ramon. It was a pleasure, as we say in Portugal, muito prazer. And we'll meet by next week again, and then we'll do the next one, and we'll not have to introduce ourselves anymore, but we'll go straight to business.
We will go straight to business, like we say in Finland. Kiitos paljon.
Amazing how you learn to master such a difficult language.
You can't believe how much I learned, but one day I will expose myself here. Goodbye. Thank you so much. Ciao, ciao.
Thanks, Ramon. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.